Welcome to CrossYoga Slow. This is a themed class about prayer. You may know the term, it's only crazy people that talks to themselves. And sometimes I think that maybe if you're not familiar with prayer, you think that, wow, prayer, that's just crazy people talking to themselves. So I know that feeling. But the reality is, I think we're talking a lot more to ourselves than we are actually aware of. All the dialogues going on in here in our brain. And I actually believe that talking not only to ourselves, but talking to what's bigger than us, the Creator, God, whatever you want to call him or it, is such a healing process for us. And I believe that through prayer, things can be turned around in our lives. Not just because I pray, but because we have a God listening. It's not just something far away, but a God listening. We have stories in the Bible all about God listening to prayer. And in all religions, prayer is the fundamental thing in most religions. So prayer is not just for crazy people. Prayer is for all people. Welcome on the mat. I hope you already are sitting somewhat comfortable. Close your eyes, let your hands rest on your thigh, and we'll spend just a short moment getting into our breath and awareness of the practice of yoga and the movement we're about to do. Let the belly expand, the chest lifts as you inhale, and slowly exhale again. Maybe listen to the subtle noise if you inhale through your nose and out your nose. That little noise. Some would actually say that inhaling and exhaling is a prayer to God. And while we move, I'll explain that a little bit more. Take your right hand and place it in front of you and the left hand behind you, so you move your shoulders in a twist, small twist. Raise your arms above the head and move into a twist on the other side. And maybe you do this with your breath, so that you inhale as you lift your arms up, exhale as you find your twist. And continue as slow as you can without getting dizzy. So in the Old Testament, Yahweh, the name of God, Yahweh, some would say that it's impossible to pronounce. And when you inhale, you kind of say, Yah, that inhale, that noise, that's also why I asked you to listen for it, is the Yah, and the exhale is the V. It's not a word, but it's a sound. And just think if that is true, that every breath we take is a mention of God's name. It's a mention of the Creator of everything. Next time your hands is above your head, fold your hands here, the palms reach up and sit as tall as you can, lifting, creating length. And then lean forward, maybe just a little bit and maybe more. Relax your neck and your head, sway from side to side. There's always a little bit of a gentle warm-up for your spine. Coming into seated pose again, and find down dog. Spread your fingers out. Remember, if you can't do down dog, dog. Tabletop would be the easier version. Maybe you fold your mat for your knees. Down dog. Spread your fingers out. Hip width distance in between your feet. And then paddle your legs, your feet. Try to soften your arms a little bit. Maybe move your neck if you have a little bit of shoulder and neck tension today. And slowly walk your feet to the front of the mat. Again, hip width distance in between the feet. Bend the knees as much as you like. Fold forward. Bend more down in your knees and coming into a mountain pose, standing at the top of your mat. Folding your shoulders up and back. I remember a good girlfriend of mine who said to me at some point, "Oh, Ria, you're so good at praying." And I was like, "What? Good at praying? How can you be good at praying?" But what she meant is that she felt like she didn't know how to express herself in prayer. And I'm brought up with prayer and speaking out loud, so I understand why it becomes more natural to me. Take your hands above your head and take a hold of your right arm and move to your left side stretch. The point being here is that somehow you can't be good or bad at prayer. It's all about just being who you are. Coming into mountain pose and standing and move to the other side. So prayer is about expressing what you feel, what you think, what you're doing, your worries, your happy thoughts. That's it. Just as you're talking to a good, trusted, loving friend. That's prayer. Back to middle. And then fold forward again. Fingers on the mat and step your right leg back. Come down on the knee. I always fold my mat for the sake of my knee. Low lunge. Move your hip a little bit forward and make sure that your knee and ankle are somewhat stacked above each other here. Take your hands on your hip and move your hip forward without leaning back. Hands in prayer pose in front of your chest and feel this stretch maybe on your hamstrings here and your hip flexors here. And your palms really firmly move towards each other and take your shoulders down. Breathe into your belly. And from here, twisting. This right elbow moves either on the inside of the thigh for a not so deep twist or on the outside of the thigh. Being gentle with yourself, we're not that warmed up. See if your thumbs can reach somewhat towards your chest. And again, take your shoulders down, they tend to lift here. Maybe looking back if you can keep your balance. To the middle. Both hands down on the mat. Lift the knee off the mat and step this front foot back. Three-legged dog. Lift it up. If you like, you can do some circles. Bend your knees. And then again, step this left leg to the front of the mat. High lunge this time. Again, knee and ankle above each other. See if you can hold your balance and lift up. Shorten the distance in between your feet here if you like to have a little bit more easy version. Extend the back leg as much as you can. Arms lifted. And just stay in high lunge for a little bit. Inhale. Deep exhale. Fingers on the mat. Step the back foot to meet the front at the mat. Fold forward. Feel a difference in between left and right leg. Bend your knees, wrapping this small sequence up. Chair pose. Now you might feel the difference in left and right thigh. I definitely feel my left thigh being more tired. See if you can lift your heel off just to get a little bit of balance here. If that doesn't work for you, just stay with the sole of the heel on the mat. Beautiful. Mountain pose. Maybe side out. And you might think, can one pray if one don't believe in God or not sure? I would say yes. Again, the Bible is full of stories about people that don't really believe that much in God or Jesus, but they pray or they come to Jesus and it's all good. So if you don't believe in God, you might say, okay, God, I feel crazy praying. I feel weird. I don't really believe in you, but here I come. Ria told me it's a good idea, so I'm going to tell you about my day. Maybe that's what you want to do. Take your hands above your head and fold forward. This time, left leg moves back. Low lunge, yet again, on this side of the body. Lift up when ready. Move your hip forward to find a deeper stretch. Hands maybe up towards the sky to begin with. Palms together and take them into prayer pose. I remember being a kid. Now this is called prayer pose. This is why I think about it. So I remember when I was praying as a kid, I was like squeezing my whole body, like tightening my whole body, because somehow I felt like that was prayer. Until one day I realized I was doing it. And I was like, why in the whole world am I like when I'm praying? Or, it's not about where you put your hands or your gaze or, it's just about connecting with God, our loving heavenly creator. Twisting, outer edge or inside of the thigh. Palms again down. Try to create space here in between the shoulder blades. It's very easy to kind of wrap your shoulders to the front. Try to lengthen, which also means you move this back shoulder, or this top shoulder further back, like if someone is kind of moving your back a little bit. And let go. Fingers on the mat again. Back knee off the mat. Step this front foot back into three-legged dog or tabletop. As we did before, you might move the knee, the hip. And again, step it to the top of the mat. High lunge. Let go of the floor when you're ready. Take your time. Shoulders down. Try to bring awareness to your lower spine, your lumbar spine. A lot of us tuck our tailbone back like that and make this back bend. And try to avoid that by taking the pelvis here and tilting it a little bit underneath the shoulders, actually. Engage your core. This is the abs that will keep the pelvis somewhat aligned. So we use our core here. Create strength in the front leg. Sinking deeper and maybe lifting the back heel a little bit higher off the mat. One last breath. Slowly take your hands down on the mat. Maybe tuck the toe a little bit closer and then fold forward. And then step your feet to the outside of the mat. So I would call this semi-wide stand. And then move here into wide-legged mountain pose. Take your hands behind your hip, fingers moved up if you can. Small micro bend in the knee. Engage your glutes and then lean a little bit back, opening up your chest. Pelvic floor engaged. And navel in as we stand in mountain pose, still with our feet a little bit distance. Lean forward, and maybe you want to use a block now if the floor is really far away from you. So we'll do a twist with this half-wide standing position. Your right hand on the block or on the mat in front of your feet and lifting up. Left arm towards the sky, trying to stack the shoulders. Now the hip would love to move to your left side, but try to avoid that. Try to let your hip stay in between your feet without moving it. It's only the shoulders or the top of the spine that's moving. And even take the top hand behind your back, if you can. Tuck it underneath. See if you can reach your thigh behind you, maybe not. To deepen the stretch on the shoulder. And actually also the twist for the whole spine. Letting go. And maybe you bend your knees and sway from side to side. And working or moving into the other side, with or without a block. If you don't have a block, maybe just use your fingertips to create that length. And notice if your shoulders are kind of lifted up here. They often are, so take them down. Hip move it back. If you look up or down, doesn't really matter. Avoid coming into a forward fold. We are not doing this. We are lifting so that our spine is somewhat horizontal. And maybe hands behind you. Seeing if you can reach down there. Checking in with your legs, micro bending them. And let go. Now you take your heels, put your heels on the mat. The toes maybe still be pointing out. Sit down in your yoga squat. Yet again, prayer pose with our hands. Now I know a lot of people can't come with the whole sole of the feet down there. They'll have to lift the heel off. That's fine. You can also find a wall and just lean up against the wall. That's really nice. Using your elbows just to stretch the inner thighs by moving your knee joints a little bit out to the side. If you want to go for crane pose here, hand balance, welcome to do that. 2 more breaths. And see if we can get out of it without making too much noise in our knees. My knees tend to speak a lot. Step it back into down dog and shake any tiredness out. And come into child's pose. Get some distance in between your knees. Glutes back. Maybe they meet the heels there, maybe not. Forehead on the ground. And praying and believing, having faith is not about believing in a book. Jesus says here in John 5, it's in the Message version. Now you have your heads in the Bible constantly because you think you can find eternal life there. But you miss the forest for the trees. These scriptures is all about me. And here I am, standing right in front of you. So faith, we don't have faith in a book as such. We have faith in a person, in a relationship to God as our Savior. Lift up from child's pose. Just a few stretches before wrapping up. Come down on your belly. Take your right hand out like you have your hand in cactus pose. Left arm is somewhat underneath your shoulder. Left foot, lift it, bend your knee and move it, crossing it over to the other side. You can let your head kind of reach down on the mat. So this is a twist for the spine, but also a stretch for the shoulder in the front. So don't go too far back. You need to be able to breathe. Letting go. Back on the mat here, of course, working the other side. Again, 90-degree angle in your left arm. Take the hand off your right underneath your shoulder, so you're kind of lifting a little bit there. Right leg, bend it, move the foot behind you. And my body, there's a huge difference between left and right side, so you might feel that as well. Relax as best you can. Let go. Coming back on your belly here. Hands underneath shoulders, lifting up, taking your time. Sit on the mat. Feet to the front. Last stretch before coming down. Lean forward. And I'll not end this video as such with a long time in resting pose. I'll let you do that. But I'll invite you, if you have prayed or if you not have prayed, to pray down on your mat. I'll just tell you what to do. So if you want, come down on your mat. Let your palms rest, or your hands rest on the floor, palms facing up. Feet moving a little bit out to the side to open the hip girdle. And picture God or Jesus, and if that's difficult, just someone that you really trust. And maybe they will represent, for now, God or Jesus. And tell them just, how are you doing? How are you doing? What are you longing for? What are you happy about? So this will be what I'll invite you to do on your mat today. How are you doing? And from my heart to your heart, thank you for listening in. I'll do a video next week about how to listen to God. But right now, just speak in prayer, in faith, maybe. How are you doing?